I was 17 at the time that this event occurred. I was a nerdy and socially awkward teenager, so imagine the sort of crap that I did on the internet. I was at the perfect age to know my way around the internet. However, I had a knack for hacking into things that are meant to be private, social media and such. You know, the usual things kids my age did. One Saturday night, I had decided to try and up my hacking name, or so to speak. I needed a challenge, which is when I stumbled into the deep web. The deep web sounded pretty cool at the time. Honestly, it was the challenge I had been looking for. I searched the deep web for hours, my eyes absorbing everything that floated around the World Wide Web, until I found the one thing that would prove if I was actually good at being a hacker or not. Well, I proved myself wrong nonetheless when I hacked into a seemingly harmless bank account. Boy, was I wrong. I did my usual thing. My fingers rapidly typed at the keyboard, all of the weird encrypted symbols staring at me. I did everything the usual way, continued to type at the keyboard until I was in. I had finally hacked into the account. The financial record was absolutely incredible. Large amount of money being deposited into the account. It was unbelievable, and the person didn't even spend the money. Instead, it was immediately being sent somewhere else. And being the curious teenager that I was, I decided to follow the electronic footprints until another box on my computer screen popped up. It was a completely different bank account, one that was across the country from the account that I had just been in. I think you know where I am going with this story. Anyway, I quickly worked to hack into the account, determined to figure out what the hell was going on with this, and much to my surprise, it led me to a page that I didn't even know existed. I honestly do not remember the website name, but it was one that you couldn't actually find if you search it on Google. This particular bank account was receiving money from across the country and a few places on the other side of the world. It took hours for me to actually look through everything and follow all of the breadcrumbs, and it wasn't until then that I had the brilliant idea to donate some of the money in that account to charities that could really use the money. I took a 15 minutes break from my computer to grab some dinner and use the restroom, but it wasn't until I returned to my room that I realized I had no idea what person would be missing this money. I mean, it was hidden in the deep web for a reason, so someone didn't want it to be found, or they were doing something illegal. I began to do a thorough search into the person's account. It looked like they were being paid a shit ton of money for something they were doing for a lot of different people across the world. I don't remember how I was able to find out the account holder's name. It was such a long time ago, but I found it and did my search on Google. Turns out the second account I had hacked into was some sort of bounty hunter, not in the traditional sense. It was more like, well, I guess you could say the person was a hitman. Again, it was such a long time ago, but trust me when I say that I quickly closed everything, found my way out of the deep web, and closed my computer for the night. I was so afraid that the person would figure out who I was, come to my house and murder me that I missed an entire week of school because I didn't want to leave the house. That was the absolute last time I had ever searched the deep web. It's no secret that the internet is fit to burst with the amount of strange and unexplained videos that surface every day. We've become so numb to the norm created by these videos that nothing crawls under our skin like it used to. We search for the ever-diminishing high of being afraid. of being so dumbfounded by what's on screen that we question the limits of reality. Maybe I'm being too dramatic, but for me, these videos have become so mundane that I no longer get anything from them. I just sit in front of my computer, resting my chin in the palm of my hand, just looking for a rush. Deep into the night, I watch the same scene playing out over and over. Grainy and poor quality videos capturing something slipping off into the woods, or a spectral figure crossing between two doors. It's 2020, how are there no high quality pictures or footage of the things that used to scare us? It's almost like Bigfoot became privy to the advance of technology and got better at hiding. What's worse than not being scared was losing my wonder. I started realizing how fake so many of these videos were, and even the ones that were done well seemed easy enough to question their validity. So I began to doubt the existence of anything that used to keep me up those nights. Aliens, ghosts, monsters. If the video were all fake in an age where everyone is streaming or has $800 phones, then maybe they just weren't real. Moving away from videos, I started traversing forums to see if anyone was feeling the way I was feeling, to see if anyone had something that could spark that light of creativity again. What was sparked was curiosity. Now and then on different sites, I would see mention of a website that contained unsettling content. Not the gory kind you would find on something like LiveLeak, but videos that were extraordinary and unusual. Needless to say, I became hooked on the idea of finding this website. I would message anyone who made even a passing mention of it for details. No one ever offered me information, only replying that if I kept looking for it, I'll eventually find it. I asked specifically it was a dark web type thing, knowing that's a hub for a bunch of strange content. All the people I asked confirmed that it wasn't. It was on the surface. Somewhere a website hosting a treasure trove of old videos was waiting for me. I couldn't understand why no one would just link me to the site or describe the video. The best information I got was, it's just a matter of chance, and that my chance was increased by actively seeking it out, and that's about all I could do. To find it, I had to look for it, which sounds easy enough, but by God did it take forever. My Google search history must look absolutely manic. I would search for some strange keywords and then immediately dive into the later pages of the search. I figured a site like that wouldn't be sitting within the first few pages of results. I just remember being told that I would know I was in the right place when I got there. Days went by, and while I did stumble across several intriguing things, I always felt the sites weren't it. And then with sleep-deprived eyes and weary fingers, I found what I believed to be the website others were speaking about. It became clear pretty quickly why no one was able to directly link me to the site, as the URL remained blank. Even searching for the same term in Google failed to get me back to the site, like it had shifted its place after I found it. The page itself was blank as well. Nothing but a large black screen. Not knowing what to do, I moved my mouse to the empty URL and highlighted it to see if the text was hidden somehow. After highlighting the areas, some text popped up in the URL space. It read, video. Doing the only logical thing I could think of, I simply put the number 1 after the new URL text, and then a video began to occupy the once dark web page. It was a video of someone streaming. They didn't have any viewers, but they sat in their room talking to the camera. Nothing really seemed off about it. The room was well lit, and the streamer didn't look like anything out of the average. I watched him talk about his day for a minute or two. Again, he didn't mention anything odd. Then there was a large bang of camera that caught his attention. He looked towards what I could only assume was his bedroom door. I could hear the click of the door opening, realizing he mentioned earlier that he lived alone. He looked visibly concerned, the hair on his head ruffled from the pressure of the door swinging open. His chest started to heave, looking at something off-screen. His voice was quivering to chattering teeth. He repeated, "What the fuck?" over and over like his brain was skipping. Starting to rise out of his chair, he started asking what the thing of camera was, screaming at the top of his lungs as he started backing up. Turning his head to the camera, I could see tears running down his cheek. His eyes were distant, like they were broken or he couldn't come to terms with what he was seeing. And just there, at the climax, the stream ended and the webpage returned to darkness. I sat there for a moment looking at the dark screen. I played the video once again, trying to find something recognizable. Surely a clip like this would have spread around, it was just so weird. It seemed so genuine too. I'm not sure how I would react to certain situations, but the streamer looked like he had seen something no one ever expects to see. After collecting myself, I realized that I had found that high I was looking for. The video was just so bizarre and off-putting that my skin was starting to crawl, thinking of what the streamer might have seen just off camera. I found myself angry that the stream didn't continue long enough to get a look. But with my newfound source of horror, I started going through one video after another. I was afraid if I clicked off the site, I wouldn't be able to find it again, or that it would take days of searching again. I sure as hell couldn't bookmark it. Not all the videos were all that scary to me. A lot of times they were just what looked like home videos. People doing average things, all true in a way that unsettled me too. So all of them may have something going on, and I just failed to notice. Like with video 26, it was just a guy in his late teens, sitting on his bed practicing guitar. He was a beginner, and the odd twangs of misplayed notes filled my room. With the guy sitting on the bed, I could see the window behind him. For a brief moment, no more than a few frames, it seemed like the bright blue sky shifts deep green, and then back to blue. I barely picked up on it, and maybe it's nothing, but it was an oddity in the video, nonetheless, so it made me a little more observant of the backgrounds. Some videos, however, it was all too clear what I was supposed to be looking at. Subtly went out of the window on videos like video 14. It was a dark room with one source of puzzling light casting down on a man laying on a concrete floor. He was shirtless and panting heavily. I could see dark spots under him where his sweat or tears had stained the grey floor. Hunched over on his knees and forearms, he kept telling someone off camera that he told them everything he knew. This went on for a moment, and then the man said, "Please don't do it again." Just as his sentence disappeared into the air, I saw his right arm start to lift up and then violently jerk backward. The sound of bones cracking and the man's shrill cry of pain caused me to nearly fail out of my chair. The joint of his shoulder and elbow completely failed him, and the back of his hand slapped his spine. I know some people can do that, but judging by the anguish on his face, I don't think he was one of them. The ease of which his arm bent the wrong way, it was so swift with no hesitation, like someone just willed it to be. The video ended, but I could still hear his screaming in my ear. Luckily, some of the more mundane videos played after that one, like the site was giving me a break. If I find it again and see more, maybe I'll be back. And if I can find a way to get a path to the site, I'll be back. But for now, I'll leave you with one more video that stuck with me. Video 57. The video starts with a man walking to an empty house. No furniture or anything. Only a bleak green carpet lining the floors of each room. He would look out the windows he passes by, but wouldn't point the camera out there. I watched him get increasingly frantic as he started running room to room. Each look out of the window seemed to break him a little more. Eventually he ran to the front door and with a trembling head unlocked it. Swinging the door open, the source of his concern became alarmingly clear. A crowd of plain grey mannequins lifted their heads to meet his size. There were so many that I could barely see any of the front yard, just shoulder to shoulder mannequins. His breath was so rapid and harsh right against the camera. He started screaming at the scene before him, almost in defiance. He kept engaging them on, telling them to get it over with, and when he would had enough of the motionless figures, he slammed the door shut. Turning around to face the rest of the house, something caused him to drop his phone. It landed face down on the carpet showcases the dark green. I heard the struggle and shuffling of feet filling the house. Then the camera was picked up, plain grey fingers laced around it, bending at the visible plastic joints. The thing manipulating the camera pointed it at the man that was being pinned down by the figures. I was waiting for it to cut to black, like I had seen so many times before, but instead I watched as a horde of mannequins hovered over the man and started to peel away at him. He was screaming and trying to fight against it, telling them he didn't want to go back. As they ripped at his flesh, I was surprised at the lack of gore, no blood or bone. As they ripped his face apart, all I saw was a plain grey shell underneath, and then the video cuts to black. It's something I have no idea what to make of. The amount of production that would have been necessary to do whatever the hell that was. I couldn't find anything like it. That goes for most of the videos. I'm not sure why these videos only make it to this site. Why we aren't seeing them on YouTube or any other platform. Hell, I don't know anything about this. All I know is it offered me a high I hadn't ever felt before and filled me with a dread I don't think I will ever shake. Feeling of something out there beyond me, always knowing at the back of my neck. As conflicted as I am, I'll search for that high until I find it again. I have to know what else is out there. How many videos are there? What is video 121? For my money, I can only conclude that the things I saw on that site were real. Maybe I wasn't supposed to see them. All I know is I have to find that place again.